To Adobe Photoshop's user interface. What you see before you is called the application frame, and this confides all of Photoshop to a single resizable and movable window. These are the components of the Adobe Photoshop interface. The first being the Tools panel over here on the left. Now the Tools panel is the home base of all Photoshop's editing tools. You can view it as a single column, or if you click this double arrow up here, you can double up the tools. This toolbar is also dockable and movable. So this dark top here allows you to click and drag your tools panel to another location on your application frame. It's just a personal preference. If you wish to place it back, let's say you accidentally move it, you click and drag that dark panel all the way to the left and wait until you see that highlighted line in blue. And when you release, it will dock back in place. Another component of the application frame is called the options bar, and that's located up here on the top. Now your options bar lets you customize the behavior of nearly every tool in Photoshop's tool panel. And if you notice, it will swap options as you swap tools. For example, right now I'm activating the Move tool, and you'll notice these are the options bar settings. But if I swap to another tool, it will change. So I'm going to swap to the paintbrush tool. So you can see now I have different options. Now it's very important that you utilize these options so that you make all of Photoshop's tools more useful. If you always use the default, you will be very limited in your options. So I'm going to swap back to the Move tool. Now another component of this application frame are your panels, located here to your right. Panels should be familiar to you as well. Illustrator has panels. And panels are just small windows that let you work with commonly used features like type, right? Your layers, all of these things. One thing to know about panels is that they are movable and dockable. If I want to swap the order, I want characters to be with characters, I want layers by themselves, I can just click and drag. I have a lot of options as far as order. Now, if something is missing here, the way I access all my panels is under the Window menu. So if I go to Window, all of these here are panels. So let's say I need my color, I can just click on color, my panel will pop up. Let's say I want color to be next to layers, all I have to do is drag it. Okay? Now, another part of this application frame is called your document tabs. Your document tabs are just these names up here that allow you to swap between different documents you have open. Now your document window is the current document you have open. It's this space, all of this space over here. It allows you to know what you're currently editing. Now your menus are up here, right? It goes from Photoshop all the way to Help. They allow you to make further changes. They also have panels. They have viewing settings. We will go over those another day, but you should know that when you go up to your menu, if you see these little arrows here, that means there are more options available. Now, a few notes about this interface to keep in mind. Now, you can move these panels, right, and these options around to your liking. So I use a lot of layers is number 1 in Photoshop. I may not use these as much, so I can use these little drop down arrows and close these things. I may want to resize or get rid of character, right? Resize panels. Now let's say I come up with my perfect setting. I've spent time. I want to put my layers back. I don't want my character styles. All right, I've spent quite a bit of time on this. Sorry, let me get rid of this. I spent quite a bit of time, and I like this order. Photoshop has a great function of saving this, and it's called saving your workspace. If it makes sense, this is your workspace, this is what you're utilizing the most. You don't want to have to reset it every time you open up Photoshop. So there's 2 ways of setting up a workspace. The first, if you go up to Window, you click Workspace, and you hit new workspace, you can title the workspace you just created. So I'm going to name this Morales Color Editing, right? Then if I hit save, you'll notice up here on the right hand corner, I have something called Morales Color Editing. And now anytime I open up Photoshop and I want these specific panels or this specific order, I can just click up here and find, right? This is something else I did, Morales Editing. So I have quite a bit of options here. And the great thing about it is I can go up to Window, Workspace, change my workspace here, but I can also just go up here and swap them out. And let's say I'm not working much with color in this document. I'm going to work with a lot of type. I can swap down to typography, and my workspace will change. Just give it a second. There we go. It will change to panels that really make sense for what I'm doing. If I'm working with typography, then it would make sense that my character and my paragraph panels are on the top. They're the most important, which is really helpful for you because it saves so much time. Now, one last thing to note is that Mac users for Adobe Photoshop CS6 have an option that PC users don't have. And this option is to keep this application frame that we discussed earlier. This application frame just keeps everything docked together, and you can tell it's an application frame because of this dark gray background. But let's say I didn't want that. If I went up to Window and I unclick the option that says application frame, you'll notice that now I can have my multiple tabs or images open, and they're kind of floating. There is no gray background docking this all together. I can view my desktop or whatever programs I have in the back. Now if I click on my desktop, you'll notice everything kind of disappears except my windows, my toolbars, my panels, and that's because I'm no longer activated on Photoshop. In order to go back, I'd have to click on the picture or the icon. This is a personal preference as well. I prefer the dock. I don't like to see the clutter of the background, but you will utilize whatever works best for you. Now for the activity for today, what I'd like you to do is to create a new document. I don't care about the size or the specs right now. We will go over this tomorrow. What I do care about is the panels you choose to incorporate on the side. I would like you to put at least 8 panels in the order you want. You can swap them around, right? You can dock them underneath one another. And I would like you to save your workspace by going up here, clicking New Workspace after you're done setting your panels, and naming it as your name, Workspace 1, and then hitting save. I'm not going to hit save for this, but you will. Now once you're done with that, I'd like you to just try playing around with some of the tools that look really unfamiliar to you based on your experience in Illustrator.